Okay, so in the purchasing we completed, these are the areas we covered: configuration, we tested P2P cycle, role customizations and different approvals. These are the different type of approvals we tested, and we covered OTBI reporting and BIP. Right. In today's session, we'll talk about purchase orders. Okay. Purchase orders. So we have seen how to create purchase order based on the requisition, right? First, we'll try to understand what are the different type of purchase orders we have. Okay, what are the different type of purchase orders we have? So first, we'll discuss how we have in the Fusion applications, and if any changes, we'll discuss that point also by comparing with EBS. Right. So basically, we have a three type of purchase orders. Three type of purchase orders. Okay, three type of purchase orders. Those are standard purchase order, standard purchase order, and blanket purchase agreement, blanket purchase agreement, call it as BPA. The other one is contract purchase agreement. We call as CPA. Okay. These are the three type of purchase orders we have. So when I talk about standard purchase order, what is the purpose of the standard purchase order? So here I'm writing as purpose. What is the purpose of? These are the three type of purchase orders, and what is the purpose of those purchase orders? So basically, when you talk about standard purchase order, we use it maybe for one-time purchase. Okay, one-time purchase. There is some need, you want to purchase something or you want to render some services, and you want to get from the supplier, but you don't want to get into any agreement. And other side, you are very sure what you want to purchase. That means that could be services, or if it is item, how much quantity you required, and when we required. When we are clear on everything without having any agreement with the supplier, what are the purchase we do? For that, we use the purchase order type called as standard purchase order. This is for one time. When you are contacting the supplier by placing the standard purchase order, we never get into any agreement. No agreement with the supplier. And other side, we know all the details. Okay, we know all the details. All the details means which item we require, how much quantity we require, we know the price, and when we require that item, where supplier has to send. All the information we can provide to the supplier. So in those scenarios, we create standard purchase order. The other one is blanket purchase agreement. Okay, blanket purchase agreement. So when we use blanket purchase agreement, so there will be cases where we get into the agreement with the supplier saying that we need so and so items. Okay, you need so and so items, and you can specify the tentative quantities also. Okay, and we may not be very sure about when we require. So we need what item we required, and maybe that items we require for certain duration, and we are not sure on when we require. Okay, you can, you know the item, even you know the quantity, how much quantity you required, and you know the price of item also, but we are not very sure on when exactly required. That is nothing but delivery schedules. So, and again, you may require that item for certain period. In that case, definitely you have to get into the agreement with the supplier. You'll get into the agreement saying that for this 1 year duration, you have to supply so and so items to us, and this much quantity we may require. This is the price which mutually agreed, and we are not sure on when we required. So that's how we'll get into the agreement. Whenever we require, how much quantity we require, we'll inform to the supplier. Accordingly, supplier will supply by referring our blanket purchase agreement. Here we are calling it as this is the agreement. Yes, we'll have an agreement with the supplier to purchase some material, and within that purchase agreement we don't find any delivery schedules. That means that is the reason we are calling as blanket. That is not a complete information. So the information, delivery information, will be missing within the purchase agreement. That is the reason this we call as blanket purchase agreement. Within this you can have a price negotiations also. Okay, you may have price negotiations. So that's how we can manage the blanket purchase agreement. So here what we can say, when we know which goods or which services we required, and when we are not sure about delivery schedules. Okay, we are not very sure about the delivery schedules, and if you want to still maintain the price negotiations, so I mean it will give us the option to maintain the price negotiation, saying that if you buy the 100 quantity of material, what is the price supplier agreed, if it is a 200, 300, 400. So that's how the price negotiations also, the supplier discounts also you can maintain based on the quantity. So that also can be included within this blanket purchase agreement. Say it allows us to specify price negotiations also. Okay, price negotiations. So these cases, in these scenarios, we can use this. So simple example I'll take here. Say you are creating one blanket purchase agreement. Okay, you created blanket purchase agreement for $50,000. Okay, that means you agreed with the supplier to purchase 50,000 worth of the material. Which goods you require, you have to specify within that. Done. Now we have an agreement, and today we want to purchase something from the same supplier. Already we have agreement. The say agreement duration is 1 year. The amount is 50,000. Today I want to purchase something from that supplier for 5,000. So what I have to do is I have to create standard purchase order. I have to create the standard purchase order against the blanket purchase agreement. Here say I am going to purchase, I am not specifying the quantity, price, etc. directly amount. Say for 10,000. So 50,000 agreement, and already we purchased for 10,000. Still supplier has to support 40,000 worth of the purchases. So again you may raise one more purchase order. This may be for 20,000. So out of 50,000 already we purchased for 30,000. Still supplier has to support up to 50,000. The moment you create the purchase order, sorry, the moment you create the standard purchase order, automatically system will update against this blanket purchase order saying that the total agreement value is 50,000, already purchased 10,000. Okay, it gives that information as a 10,000 already released. 10,000 already released. Again, if you again place the standard purchase order to the same supplier for the same item which you included within the blanket purchase agreement with the 20,000, again system will release 20,000 from this 50,000, finally 10,000, 20,000, totally 30,000 would be released, and remaining 20,000 up to 20,000 we can go ahead and purchase whenever you require. So this is how we can use the blanket purchase agreement. If you are from EBS background, okay, if you compare this concept with EBS, in EBS we don't create standard purchase order against the blanket purchase agreement. We have a concept called as blanket release, but here we don't use. In Fusion they are not giving that the term as a blanket release. Instead of performing the blanket release directly, we create the standard purchase order. So this is a point we have to understand. Okay. One second. Okay, that's all about a blanket purchase agreement. We'll have agreement with the supplier without specifying the delivery schedules. So against that, by referring that blanket purchase agreement, we can create the purchase orders. Within the purchase order, definitely we have to specify the delivery schedules and when we require, where we require, the quantity and price, etc. By following the BPA, we have to create. That's how we can keep releasing, okay, the certain amount or certain quantity of uh, purchase orders, and we can place and we can receive. The rest of process remain same as a standard process. Okay, that's all about blanket purchase agreement. Okay, within the blanket purchase agreement we'll specify everything. Okay, what we need, goods or services, quantity, price, and in this blanket purchase agreement, since agreement for certain period, so we are not going to specify exactly when we require the material. That will be addressing within the purchase order creation whenever you create the PO against blanket purchase agreement. And it gives us the option to specify the price negotiations, whatever the price discounts supplier is offering. So that information also directly you can maintain within the blanket purchase agreement. Whenever you create the standard purchase order against the blanket purchase agreement, the same discounts would be applicable. If you are raising the purchase order which is meeting the criteria conditions within which are specified in the price negotiations of BPA, so accordingly the automatically the price will be changed, the discount price would be applicable. Okay, so other purchase order type is contract purchase agreement, CPA. Here it's very simple. Here, even in case of blanket purchase agreement also will have some terms and conditions. Okay, we can have some terms and conditions towards this agreement and further purchasing process. But when I talk about contract purchase agreement, here the primary element is the terms and conditions only. We'll have some terms and conditions with the supplier. For that we'll have an agreement. We'll have a agreement with the supplier. Okay, we'll have a agreement with the supplier with certain terms and conditions, and that too here in case of this standard contract purchase agreement, we are not going to inform to the supplier what goods we require, how much quantity we require, and what is the price and when we require. Nothing we are going to inform to the supplier. Just will have an agreement with some terms and conditions saying that, so what are the items I need, you should be able to in the position to supply for certain period. Okay, so that's how we'll have a agreement with the supplier with certain contract amount. Okay, so we'll have agreement with the supplier with some terms and conditions, Okay, which items within the conditions you may write which items or which services that, but when you are creating the contract purchase agreement, within that you no need to enter any item information that you may have as a part of terms and conditions, but just we are going to have an agreement with the supplier saying that for 1 lakh worth of you have to supply 1 lakh worth of the material, and again I'm not very sure which item you require we required, that I will let you know whenever we require, where you have to deliver. Okay, all the information we will discuss whenever we have a requirement. On that base, we'll have a contract purchase agreement. Within the contract purchase agreement, we don't specify any item or quantity or price, and nothing will enter, just will specify the agreement period, the contract period, and contract amount. The contract is going to be for how much amount, that's how we'll be creating. So after creating the this contract purchase agreement, similar to the blanket purchase agreement, will create the standard purchase order. Say your contract purchase agreement may be for 1 lakh. Okay, we are going to have an agreement with the supplier to purchase 1 lakh worth of the material. Exactly which material, nothing we are informing to the supplier, just it is a contract. Okay, so whenever you want to purchase, by referring this contract purchase agreement, you can raise the standard purchase order. So that's how you can place the orders to supplier by referring this agreement. Okay, so if you compare this contract purchase agreement with EBS, in EBS what we do is we don't go with the standard purchase order creation directly. Okay, here also in case of blanket purchase order, we'll have a blanket releases instead of standard purchase order creation. In case of contract purchase agreement, in EBS we don't create directly standard purchase orders against this CPA. We create the schedules. Okay, scheduled releases we do here. There is no concept called as scheduled releases. It's all about directly will be releasing, will be placing the purchase orders only. Okay, so this is a point we have to understand. There are the three type of purchase orders we have. If you compare the number of purchase orders with EBS, in EBS you could see one more type of purchase order, that is nothing but planned purchase agreement. Planned purchase agreement. So where we use it for long term purchases, basically we use the planned purchase agreement. That is also agreement which will have with the supplier to purchase for long term. We'll have an agreement with the we'll specify the duration, we'll specify the item, price, delivery, etc., etc. Everything will specify. It is similar to standard purchase order only, but we'll have in addition to that information, we'll have an agreement, and we'll be specifying that agreement period. So that's how you can manage within the EBS. But in the Fusion we have these three type of purchase orders only. Okay, so already we have seen how to create the standard purchase order, but automatically we didn't create manual purchase order within the application. We create a requisition and we convert a requisition as a purchase order. Now we'll go and see the standard purchase order creation through manual process. Okay, we'll go and create the standard purchase order. Before that, we'll check approvals are available to create and to approve this purchase order. Okay, we'll check the approvals. Already we configured and we tested different type of approvals, but again we'll go and verify if any approval rule is enabled for our business unit, that we'll see, or else we'll go and set separate approvals for our standard purchase order. Okay, earlier we configured approvals. Okay, if procurement BU is so and so, it has to be approved, or else serial, parallel, or first responder wins, etc., etc. Different approvals we configured and tested. That part we completed. Again we no need to discuss, but just to execute this transaction process, we'll check the approvals, or else we'll create the approvals for the standard purchase order. We need to create approvals for document wise, right? Document type wise we didn't create. We'll go and create the approval. Say set approvals for standard purchase order. Okay, we'll set the approvals exclusively for standard purchase order, and we'll create manual purchase order. Create manual purchase order. It's a standard, but you don't need to write as it's a standard. Just when you talk about types, you can take that name. Okay, we'll go and create manual purchase order. We'll test this first. After that, we'll set up the approvals for blanket purchase agreement. We'll go with this example. Okay, we'll create the blanket purchase agreement. We'll go with the releases by creating the standard purchase order only. We'll see that. So go to application, setup and maintenance. So manage implementation projects, or else directly you can go to search page. So here P3 implementation project, search for approvals. Okay, here we have a task called as manage purchasing document approvals. Click on go to task icon. Okay, so here this is the node we used. Okay, select the same node, click on edit rules. So we just use the same environment for other batch also. So whatever created, that I am just disabling. Anyway, RBU is totally different, but few existing enabled rules I am disabling, but it's not mandatory. These rules are related to different business unit. If you want to disable it, or else proceed to create the new rules. Since this is a test environment, you can just play with this, no issues. Anyway, in the production, what are the rules we create, all should be enabled if you want to take the advantage of those rules and approvals. Right. Now we'll create the rule. Click on create. Say rule for purchase order. Rule for standard purchase order. ERP3 standard purchase order rule. Fine. Say okay. So we know very well how to create rules, right? We tested many rules with the different scenarios. Okay, we given the name. Now click on add condition. So now how you want to define the condition? So we'll create the condition saying that if BU is the procurement BU is ERP3 BU, and we'll go with and condition, and document type is equal to standard purchase order, then system has to approve automatically, or it has to be routed notification to so and so approval group or single approver. You can set however required. We tested everything. Now we'll go with a simple rule. So attribute, you can select procurement business unit. Okay, procurement BU. If procurement business unit is equal to ERP3 US business unit, okay, now you can say auto approve. In that case, for any type of document, system will approve automatically, but we may have a specific requirement saying that it has to approve automatically if document type is standard purchase order. We'll just go and add one more condition. Here we have add condition. This is all we tested already. So select below. So we are going to define the condition called as if Procurement BU's ERP tree, US business unit, and document type. Sorry. And document type is equals to purchase order, nothing but standard purchase order. Okay. Now two conditions. If BU is procurement BU's ERP tree, and if document type is standard purchase order, what system has to do? You can specify that. Add condition. So you can go with approved rule or etc., whatever we discussed. But here, to simplify this setup, I'm going with automatic approvals. Okay, it has to be approved automatically. If BU is ERP tree and purchase order type is standard purchase order, system has to approve automatically. So save and close and submit it for deployment. Okay, deployed. Just click on done. Just click on done. Completed. Now for standard purchase order, we have approvals where system will approve it automatically. Now we'll see how to create the manual purchase order. In the last session, previous sessions, we have seen how to create based on the requisition. We are auto created. Now we'll see how to create the manual purchase order. We'll open the different tab to perform the transactions. Okay, this we can keep it open for any sort of setups. The other tab you can use for to test the transaction process. Fine. To create the purchase order, under procurement, go to purchase orders. Click on purchase orders task, which will take us to purchasing work area. Click on task list, say create order. Okay, create order. Earlier, how we created purchase order based on the requisition? With the help of this process requisitions. Process requisitions is nothing but auto create purchase order based on the requisition. That already we tested. Now we'll see how to create the manual purchase order. Click on create order. Click on create order. So yes, the document style is purchase order only. If you are going to create blanket or contract, you can select the respective document types or say styles. Select supplier. Supplier is ERP tree supplier, ERP tree supplier 1. Since we have only one site, the same system is defaulting. Now click on create. Just click on create. Our system will create the standard purchase order. Okay, it's only just header part. It's a PO number is 4, purchase order number is 4, and you can go on to specify the complete header information system is taking. Now we can go to lines. Okay, if you want to specify these details also, you can specify, but not mandatory. Okay, so here lines, click on add line. Under lines tab, click on add line. Here select item. So item number is ERP 1002 and it's a MacBook. and specify the quantity. Say only one quantity. Price you say $600. And here you could see very limited columns, okay, or say fields. If you want to see more fields, in same as EBS, what we do, we go to folder show field option. Here we are under lines, line related any additional fields we required. You can go to view, go to columns, and select what are the columns we required here, which are not selected, or else simply say show all. So what are the hidden columns, all system will display here. Okay, it will display all the hidden columns. What are the additional information you want to enter, you can enter. See, now we got many fields here, so you can just maintain information how you want to maintain. We may specify a requested delivery date. We requested supplier, we are going to request the supplier to deliver by tomorrow, and promise delivery date, supplier also promised to deliver by tomorrow itself. Okay, the other information also you can just specify how you require against this purchase order, what matching approval you require. Okay, you want to just create invoice by matching with this purchase order. Against this purchase order, whatever the receipt you are going to create, you want to match with that receipt, means three-way. If you want to create invoice in the payables by matching with the purchase order, receipt, and accepted quantity because of inspection, accordingly you can select. Anyway, we will discuss this two-way, three-way, four-way detail level, and we'll be creating the invoices in the payables with these three options. Okay, we'll do that. Fine. So we provided line information, the same like a system will, you can go to schedules. Okay, your system will take by default, and if you want to modify, you can modify where supplier has to ship the material, which organization, and other details you can see here. Also you can go to view and you can see additional information, additional fields if you want to see distributions. Okay, so we configure the PO tab. From their system will derive the PO charge account. Okay, we don't need to do anything. Now what you can do is you can click on manage approvals. So before that, just you can see contract terms. If any terms you want to specify, you can add here, but it's a standard purchase order. Okay, there may not be agreements. If you have some terms or conditions to purchase the specified item within the purchase order, that you may add over there. Okay, so now if you click on submit, this would be submitted for approvals. Before submitting, if you want to verify the approvals will be submitted to whom, you can just click on manage approvals. Okay, just click on manage approvals. Okay, we configured auto approvals, right? The same system is showing applications development framework application, means it's a system approval process, nothing but auto approvals. Okay, now directly you can submit this purchase order, the PO number 4, for approval, or else you can click on cancel this display information and you can submit from here. Just click on submit. So the document, the number 4, submitted for approval. You can go to task list and go to manage orders and search for purchase order. PO number is 4. Click on search. Now you can see the status as open. Already we discussed the previous session. So open, it means approved. In case of UBS, you could see as it's approved, but here If any document is approved, the status indicated by open. Okay, that's how you can create the manual purchase order. Now we'll see how to create blanket purchase agreement. Okay, to create blanket purchase agreement, first we'll go and set approvals for blanket purchase agreement. Say set approvals for blanket purchase agreement. Just simply write it as a BPA, blanket purchase agreement. After setting the approvals, what we'll do is we will create blanket purchase agreement. After setting the approvals, we'll go and create the blanket purchase agreement, and against to release based on that agreement, further we'll purchase from the supplier. For that we have to place the purchase orders by referring this BPA. In case of EBS, we'll have a blanket releases. Here instead of document called as blanket release, we use standard purchase order only. Say create purchase order against BPA. We'll create it. After creating, we'll go and verify blanket purchase agreement. Say for example, we'll create blanket purchase agreement as we discussed with $50,000, and we'll create purchase order against BPA. You can create a number of purchase orders till that we are going to meet that agreed amount. We may create purchase order against the blanket purchase agreement with 10,000. Once you create this purchase order, system will update against this blanket purchase agreement as 10,000 is released from 50,000, whatever the agreement we have with the supplier. We'll go and check that information also. So first we'll go and set the approvals. So we're on this same page almost. Click on, go to task icon, against manage purchase document approvals. So go to the same node. We discussed about all the nodes and we tested each and everything, right? So now we are just choosing this node. We have already one rule which is enabled. Yes, that is anyway for standard purchase order. Especially we created for standard purchase order. Now we'll create one more rule for blanket purchase agreement. Click on create. Say ERP3 BPA rule. Separate rule we are creating. Say okay. Just create condition. What is the condition? We'll go with the directly. If you specify the condition, document type called as blanket purchase agreement. If you specify the condition, if document type is blanket purchase agreement, approve automatically. If you create this rule, this is applicable for all the business units. That is the reason when you are creating the rule, if you require common rule for any business unit, you can create very generic way without specifying the business unit. If you want to apply the rule for your BU, you should include the additional condition also within the rule definition. So the rule which you are going to create, that should be applicable for only RBU. So the document type is procurement business unit. If procurement business unit is equal to RBU. Okay, attribute you can select as a procurement BU. If procurement business unit is equals to value, which BU? ERP3 US business unit. Okay. If this is a BU, directly you may specify the action. It has to be routed. Okay, if this is the one, like it has to be routed to so and so approver, etc. You can set. So whatever the document you create within the purchasing, okay, that could be any standard purchase or agreement, it would be directly routed to the same approver. But here we want to specify which document. So click on add condition and say add that new condition below to this condition. So what is the condition here? Attribute is document type. If document type is blanket purchase agreement, okay, if document type is equals to blanket purchase agreement, so select and say okay. Okay, and done. Now what is the action? You can take the decision how it has to be routed, serial or parallel or single or some approval group or etc, etc. You can specify. Those all we tested already. Now again we don't need to spend time to sending the notification and navigating to that user and approving, etc. Not required, since we know everything very well. So I'm going with the automatic approvals. If this condition system will identify for the documents which we create, it will approve automatically. So save and close. Don't forget to deploy. Just click on done. So we have approved rule for blanket purchase agreement also. Okay, now we'll go and create the same. Okay, we done with the approvals, and we'll go and create the blanket purchase agreement with $50,000. So we are under purchase orders task. Go to task list. So you can just go to a section called as agreements and create agreement. Just click on create agreement. So since we selected agreement, by default system is taking the blanket purchase agreement. Yes, we need that only. If you want to create agreement called as contract purchase agreement, you can change from LOB. Now anyway, not required. Who is the supplier? Against which supplier we are going to have blanket purchase agreement? Select supplier name. ERP3 supplier 1. The same site. Rest of information system is defaulting currency, and buyer is okay. Same current user only. Just click on create. Fine. So system is taking the procurement BU, and it is taking, this is the first document we are creating as a blanket purchase agreement. Document number is 1. The same here also you could see. Status is incomplete. Supplier, all the information whatever is specified is taking. So since this is agreement, there should be some agreement period that you can specify here optionally. So agreement period is starts from today and up to this month end. Okay, for only this certain period we are going to have a agreement with the supplier, and you can specify the agreement amount. Okay, the agreement value you can specify. So agreement value is $50,000. So if you are going to create any purchase order, if you are going to place any purchase order to the supplier based on this blanket purchase agreement, what should be the minimum amount within the standard purchase order which you create against this agreement? That you have to specify as a minimum release amount. Okay, minimum release amount, that you can specify the minimum release amount. So minimum, there should be $100 purchase order if you are placing to the supplier by referring this blanket purchase agreement. Okay, that information you can specify. Here we can go to lines. Just click on add line. Click on add line. Here you can specify we are going to have an agreement with the supplier to purchase which items. So one or multiple items you can list out. If you want to list out multiple items, you have to go with the different lines. Okay, here we have one item, MacBook, and here also you could see very limited columns or fields. What you can do is go to view, go to columns, say show all. So enter the price first. I'm just specifying the price as a 1000. Since mandatory field, it is not allowing to select additional columns. So show all. So it added, okay, what are the available columns to choose at line level. And this is item and price we given as 1000. The other agreement quantity means if you are going to have agreement with the supplier for specific quantity, you can specify the quantity. Agreed amount you can specify, but those are not mandatory to specify here. Already you given quantity, agreed amount here, price here. So when you are creating the purchase order based on the units, automatically it will derive the price. Okay, and then this is how you have to specify this information. So here we discussed a few points. So we know the goods and services, yes, we given what items we require, and not sure about the delivery schedules. That is the reason you cannot specify any delivery schedules. And price negotiations, yes, in case of blanket purchase agreement you can specify the price negotiations. If you want to specify the price negotiations within the line, we have a edit section. Click on this edit. That means this line related additional information you can specify here. Okay, here you can specify the price breaks, the negotiations. Click on add. So as per this agreement, okay, if you are going to what is the unit price? Unit price is 1000. But if you are going to purchase 100 quantity or else 20 quantity, minimum if you are going to purchase 20 quantity, what is the price you can specify? By default unit price is $1000, but if you purchase 20, it may be instead of 1000, 990 only. Okay, so that means this in terms of percentage system is taking the discount. And again you can specify other quantity range related price. You can click on add. Okay, if you purchase more than 20, this is the price applicable. If you purchase more than 50 quantity, the price may be $950 only each unit. And add one more. This is how you can specify the price breaks which supplier is agreed with us. Maybe if it is more than 100, it may be 920. Okay, this is how you can specify the price break since this is a blanket purchase agreement. Fine. If you want to specify, you can specify accordingly. Whenever you create the purchase order, system will look at the quantity and accordingly the price will be applicable automatically. So okay, we'll proceed with that same. Done. So that's how you can specify. And here we have a controls. When you are dealing with this blanket purchase agreement, okay, by creating the purchase order and other activities, what control should be applicable? Just go to controls tab. Here you can see business unit. Now yes, this blanket purchase agreement we are creating for this business unit. Take simple example here. Say we have ERP3 USBU. Say we have ERP3 UK BU, and we have ERP3 India BU. We have these three BUs. Now say we have a requirement of purchasing the material from the same supplier for these three BUs. Three BUs need so-and-so material. The material is available with so-and-so supplier. Now these three BUs, instead of these three BUs will go with different agreements with the same supplier. So if these three BUs, if you are going to have an agreement, the quantity of the material which you will be purchasing will be very high, and the agreement value also you can have big value of agreement, and because of that more quantity we are going to buy from the supplier may offer a good discount. With that plan, you may want to create agreement with the supplier. You may want to have agreement with the supplier to fulfill the requirement of these three BUs. So in that case, what you can do is you can include those three BUs also into this. Okay, you can add. Now we don't have access for multiple. We created only one BU. Okay, if you have multiple BUs, you can select one by one. Or else this procurement BU, this procurement agent, the current user, nothing but the procurement agent, right? This procurement agent have access to how many BUs. If you want to add all the BUs, you can click on add all the business units. You can list out these three BUs here if you have already created, and you can complete this agreement so that these three BUs will have rights to raise the purchase orders. Okay, these three BUs can create the purchase orders, and they can place the purchase orders to supplier as per the requirement by referring the same blanket purchase agreement. If you are going to include here more than one business unit, this blanket purchase agreement we call as global blanket purchase agreement. If you are going to include only one business unit, where this with for this BU only we are placing the blanket purchase agreement, we are going to have agreement, and this BU only will raise the purchase orders, place the purchase orders to the supplier against this blanket purchase agreement. That blanket purchase agreement we call as local. It's very simple. If you are going to include more than one business unit here, that we call as global blanket purchase agreement. If you are going to have only one BU, that we call as local blanket purchase agreement. That is a simple point to understand. Same concept we have in EBS also. In case of EBS, it's not like here directly we don't do it directly. We have a checkbox called as global. If you enable global, it will become global purchase agreement, blanket purchase agreement. There we can include the different operating units. But if you are not going to enable global, that will, anyway it would be specific to particular operating unit in EBS. Same logic is applicable here. And here we have some order processing options. Automatically create orders. Against this, if you want to create the orders automatically, you will go and create the requisitions. Whenever you create the requisition, if you are going to provide this agreement number within that, so since system will create the order automatically. That's how we can specify all the options, how the process options we required. Okay, so contract terms, anyway here you can specify the contract terms related to this purchase agreement. Okay, you can give all this information if any terms and conditions are applicable. So that's how you can specify all the information. Okay, what points we discussed? No deliveries we specified. Okay, no deliveries because this is just agreement, and but we specified the duration. Okay, so we specified the items, no delivery schedules, and price negotiations also. We specified whether this blanket purchase agreement you want to use for to procure globally. I mean this order to support multiple business units related requirements of purchases, or specific BU that you can specify. Based on that, you can call as this blanket purchase agreement as global or local. Okay, fine. Done. Now just click on manage approval. Directly you can click on and you can submit also. If you at all you want to perform this submit validation etc, you can do it, but not mandatory. Just if you click on validate, system will verify the complete document information you provided properly or not before you submit for approvals. Okay, you may click on validate, so that system will give the note as if anything wrong with the document. Otherwise it's not mandatory as a process. Submit, you don't need to submit for validation the document directly. You can just save it and you may check for approvals. Whenever you submit for approvals, then system, if something wrong, it will give the message. Otherwise, before that, if you want to get a confirmation from the system, you can click on validate. That's all. But the action is not mandatory at all. Just click on manage approvals for blanket purchase agreement. Also, we defined auto approvals only, right? Different approvals already we tested. We are just testing everything with auto approvals. So just click on manage approvals so that system will display who has to approve and how the notification should be routed. So what system is saying? Application development framework application. That means it is going to through with system approvals. Directly from here you can click on submit for approval. This document will be submitted for approval. As per the approval rule, it would be approved automatically. Just click on OK. The blanket purchase agreement number is 1. Go to task list. Go to manage agreements and verify the status of this BPA. What is the agreement number? 1. Click on search. What is the status? Open. Open means approved. You see here, this is the agreed amount and released amount. Nothing we released. Against this blanket purchase agreement, we didn't create any standard purchase order. Once you start creating the standard purchase order against this blanket purchase agreement, system will be updating how much amount is we released from this 50,000, which we have a agreement with the supplier. Done. Now we'll go and create the standard purchase order against this BPA. Okay, we created blanket purchase agreement and we approved, and we'll go and create the standard purchase order against the same BPA, blanket purchase agreement. Okay, for standard purchase order already we completed approvals, right? Here to create the manual purchase order already we defined the approvals. The same we can use now. Fine. Now go to task list. Say create order, or else you can go and create the requisition also. That also will be testing. Okay, you can create the requisition creation time itself. You can give the agreement number also. Okay, that will be testing later. Now directly we'll see, we'll create the purchase order against the blanket purchase agreement. So we are going to create the standard purchase order. Supplier is ERP3 supplier 1. Just say okay. Click on create. Okay, fine. So this is purchase order header section. So here the point is, when you at the time of blanket purchase agreement, within the controls there is checkbox which is enabled as automatically create the process options. We have a like automatic. Even we can, when we create the requisition, it will select automatically. Okay, when you create the requisition against the blanket purchase agreement, the system will create purchase order automatically. That is the option we have. Now against this supplier for the same specific item, we have only one blanket purchase agreement. That means it's the triggering point is item. So in the blanket purchase agreement, we selected specific item. Okay, with this supplier, the combination of supplier and item, system will verify if any agreement is available. If any agreement is available, automatically system will default. Okay, you can override it if you want to change. If you have a multiple blanket purchase agreement with the same supplier for the same item because of different business scenarios, okay, you can override it. But now when we are creating the purchase order, since we have agreement with the same supplier for the same item which you are going to select within the purchase order, automatically system will select the agreement. We'll see how it works. Okay, thus we given these details. Now go to lines, click on add line. Okay, here you see in the header level you have a agreement and requisition. Okay, if at all this purchase order we are going to create based on the requisition, yes, you can see the requisition number here. Okay, and now we are creating the purchase order. So this purchase order, if you are going to refer with the so and so agreement, the agreement number system will take here. How it will take here? First it will take at line level. Whatever it will fetch at line level, that it will display here. That's all. Directly it is not going to take header level. We'll see that. So now we have a supplier called as ERP tree supplier 1, and with item called as MacBook, with this supplier and the item called as MacBook combination, we have a blanket purchase agreement. The moment you select the item, anyway system already identified supplier is ERP tree supplier 1, and if once you select item with the combination, system will fetch blanket purchase agreement. You select item. So your item means basically it will fetch item number. Otherwise you can just tab out, use tab, it will fetch if any items are available which are starting item number as ERP, it will fetch. Select, so MacBook, done. So now we selected item, system identified there is one blanket purchase agreement, that system will take here. That's what we created, right? By clicking on this number you can see your blanket purchase agreement also. System identified supplier is ERP tree supplier 1, item is this. With this combination we have blanket purchase agreement, system selected. But whether you want to go with this agreement or without agreement, by ignoring the agreement you want to create this purchase order, or else by referring different agreement you want to create this purchase order, you can take the decision. That you can everything specify in the line level. Fine. Now we'll give the quantity. Okay, quantity unit price we given as a 1000, but we given the price breaks also, right? Price breaks also we given. So here I am going to give say 10 quantity. Okay, 10 quantity, up to 10 quantity. Okay, so no discount system is applied. If we go with 50 quantity, unit price is 1000. 1 second. Yep. Now see the price difference. By default it should be, if it is a 50 quantity, unit price is 1000, it should be 50,000, but 47,500. The reason is the price breaks we give it. Okay, so let's proceed with the 10 quantity. The blanket purchase agreement we have for 50,000. So accordingly it is taking the price based on the quantity, it is taking the price because we have a price break. Okay, based on quantity price will vary, you get discount. So ordered amount is ordered with 10,000 order, this is okay. Here all the information. So it's taking like destination type is inventory, not expense, the match approval or etc. Still scroll little right here. System is taking our blanket purchase agreement here. If you remove here, okay, you can remove, nothing goes wrong. That means you are creating the purchase order not against any blanket purchase agreement or contract purchase agreement. That's all. You can remove this so that in the header level also system will remove, or else you have a another blanket purchase agreement. Okay, so in that case you can change it. So that's how you can select, you can just create this purchase order against the specific blanket purchase agreement or without any blanket purchase agreement applicability. Okay, done. So now what we can do is the rest of process we know very well. So we may click on manage approvals to check the PO number is going to be 5. So it's our system approvals, auto approvals. That's what we created. You can click on submit. The PO number is 5. You must enter the requested date and promised date. Okay. The line level, just click on cancel. Line level, the fields are optional, but anyway, even EBS also we have to enter the same. Okay, you just scroll little right and specify requested delivery date and a promised delivery date. The system will be happy. Select and select tomorrow date. For both are different dates based on the reality. Now directly you can submit for approvals. We created purchase order with a 10,000 amount, right? PO number is 5. Click on search. You can see the status of this purchase order. Status is showing as a pending approval. That means still it is under process. So just again click on search so that system will refresh the record and it will show the updated information. Click on search again. Now you see the status as open. That means it is approved by system automatically. Now we'll go to our blanket purchase agreement. Okay, we created blanket purchase agreement with the 50,000 and we created one purchase order with the 10,000. Now system should update as this 10,000 is released from this blanket purchase agreement by creating this purchase order. Go to task list and go to manage agreements. Blanket purchase agreement number is 1. The same you could see here. And so navigate to manage agreement. By default is displaying. The agreement amount, whatever the agreement we have with the supplier is 10. Already we released 10,000. That means we created purchase order. If you click on this amount, it will take to that same purchase order. So this is how you can have n number of releases, but to release the agreement amount, same as EBS, we are not going to create blanket releases. Here the concept document is standard purchase order only. The same way you may create one more purchase order against this blanket purchase agreement, maybe with 5,000 or 10,000, 20,000. You can have a multiple releases. Okay, that's how you can just deal with the blanket purchase agreement. Okay, we'll just create requisition also. At the time of requisition we'll include it. It will auto create the purchase of that also will be testing. Okay, so done. So that's all about blanket purchase agreement. Against that, to release that amount, to place the orders by referring this, you can create the standard purchase orders where system will consider as those are releases. Now we'll see how to create the contract purchase agreement. Okay, so before that we'll set the approvals for the contract purchase agreement. We didn't set any approvals. We set approvals only for standard purchase order and blanket purchase agreement. We'll go and set approvals CPA, contract purchase agreement. After that, what we'll do, we'll go and create the blanket purchase agreement, contract purchase agreement. Say create contract purchase agreement maybe with 1 lakh, and you may create standard purchase order against that contract purchase agreement with any amount. You can create n number of purchase orders against this. Whenever you have a requirement of material, by referring this agreement, you can create purchase order. Again, here also system will treat as a releases. Right, done. We'll see this. We'll go and set the approvals. We have a separate tab which is open. Go to manage purchase document approvals. Okay, we can use the same node. Select, click on edit rules. Now we'll create separate rule for contract purchase agreement. Just click on create. The rule name is, always we are taking prefix as our name, ERP3 CPA, contract purchase agreement rule. Just say okay. Go to conditions. Create rule which would be specific to our BU. Otherwise, it would be applicable for other BUs if somebody is going to test or practice. Okay, attribute is business unit, procurement BU. If procurement BU is equals to ERP3 US business unit, sorry, directly you can click on add another. Select it as okay. Click on below. Here document type, document wise we are creating. Okay, so here everything we are setting automatic, but you know how to create with amount specifications also. Based on the document, you may set different amounts. Okay, that's how you can specify. Document type. Contract purchase agreement. Okay, say okay. Now you can set it should be automatic. Otherwise, you have a requirement if agreement amount is same or less than 10,000, then it has to be approved. If it is more than, it has to be routed for approval. Which approval that you can specify. In that case, you can go with one more condition. Within that one more condition, you can say if amount, the agreement amount is same or less than 10,000, you can specify. Okay, you can just say below, and here you may say agreement amount, other attribute. Okay, agreement amount. Agreement amount is great, not greater than, less than or equal to 10,000. You can specify. Now below you can specify action as auto approval, and you create one more rule. One more rule. I am not talking about condition. Create one more rule. Within that rule, you can specify if BU is ERP3 US business unit, if document type is equal to contract purchase agreement, if agreement amount is same or more than $10,001, it has to be routed to whom you can specify. If you create contract purchase agreement, if it is same or less than 10,000, it will approve automatically. If it is more than, accordingly it will be routed to respective approvers. Okay, that's how you can define. Now we are going to set auto approve. Select automatic. Save okay. Now say save and close and deploy it. Click on done. Okay, now we completed approvals definition for contract purchase agreement. Now we'll see how to create the contract purchase agreement. So what we discussed, there won't be any goods or services specifications and no delivery schedules, no negotiations, nothing. Just primarily we give the contract amount and contract duration. Okay, you may specify the terms and conditions which are applicable, which supplier is agreed with us. Fine. Now go to this tab. From here, go to task list. Say create agreement. Yes, this is also agreement. And select the different document style. We can create our own document styles also. We have separate task create the document styles. What we want to create? Contract purchase agreement. Fine. Who is the supplier? With which supplier we are going to have a contract? ERP tree supplier 1. Just click on create. Only header section you can see, there are no lines, nothing. Okay, we are not going to address any items or nothing. Just it's all about some agreement amount for certain period. That's all. So here agreement number is 2. Select agreement period or contract period. This is maybe up to March 31st. We are going. This agreement is up valid. Agreement amount is, let's enter the same numbers, 1 lakh. What is the minimum release amount? Minimum 100. That may be condition from supplier. Okay, rest you don't need to specify anything here. Okay, if you want to specify the controls, the generation, whether this contract purchase agreement is you want to make it as a local or global. If you include more than one business unit, by default it will become global. If you have only one business unit, that system will understand as a local. How you want to process based on your requirement, you can specify all these details. Okay, and here contract terms you can specify if you want to specify the contract terms. That's all. No other information. We are not specifying the items, nothing, just duration and agreement amount we are specifying. That's all. You can directly say approve, submit means nothing but approve.
Can we maintain separate document sequence, Lakshmi?
Yes, separate document sequence, no, because see, now see, for a blanket system is triggering what number as 1 for this 2. That means for
One.
agreement only one sequence it follows. Okay, done.
I mean, based on the document type, you can't be.
So document numbering they given as just for agreement only. That's the reason for both it will be triggering the same. Yeah, that's how we have. We submitted. Now we'll go and verify the status. So here, see, document wise for requisition, you can set separate number. Purchase order, you can set the number, but agreements, it could be any agreement. This one sequence you can set. That's all we have. Just go to manage agreements, and the agreement number is 2. Click on search. What is the status? Open. Because we set auto approvals, it's approved. Done. Now we'll go and create standard purchase order. We'll place the order to supplier by referring this CPA. Go to task list. So create order. Say create. Okay. And go to lines. The same process we already just discussed and did it. Just for one more document we are doing. Item ERP 1002 and quantity, I'll say 10 quantity. Unit prices unit price is 1000. From where it is taking, you see, if you notice, it is fetching the agreement 1. Of course not header level directly, it is fetching line level only. But what is our requirement? This purchase order we want to create not against the blanket purchase agreement. We want to create against contract purchase agreement. System is selecting, since based on this the number, since is the first one it is fetching. We can change it. Okay, just change to agreement 2. Agreement 2 for contract. search. Yes. So contract purchase agreement, we want to, against the contract purchase agreement, we want to create this purchase order, not against the blanket purchase agreement. Select it. Say okay. Okay, now everything, the complete information is changed. Okay, document number is, agreement number is 2, contract purchase agreement. Okay, your price and everything you can change it. This is defaulted based on the blanket purchase agreement. You can say like price is 250, anything you can give here. When you created contract purchase agreement, there is no price, nothing we specified, right? Quantity and price is this. Here above also system will fetch the agreement 2 only. Okay, that's how you can specify, and you can submit this for approval. Okay, sorry, again the fields we forgot to specify. Okay, line level, just give requested delivery date. When we requested supplier to deliver by this date, for example, and the supplier also promised will be delivering by same date. If you click exactly on the number, it doesn't respond. Just place cursor next to number and click, it will select. Okay.
So both are mandatory?
No, any one you can specify at least.
One date can be enough.
Yeah, one is enough. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Click on submit. Just next to next field, so I am just entering. One is when we are expecting, one is when supplier is promised. Done. We submitted. PO number is 6. Okay. Anyway, it would get approved since we have auto approvals. Anyway, go to manage orders. Order number is 6. Done. Now we'll go on to verify the contract purchase agreement information. Go to manage agreements. We created agreement with how much amount? 1 lakh. Right. Agreement number 2. Click on search. It would update the release information. Just click on search. Agreement number 2. Wait, it will update. So here it will just update that amount whatever we created purchase order. We'll just come back to the same page. Go to manage agreements. Yeah, now you can see here. It's not yet updated. Refresh. Let me click on this. Okay, it may take some time. So it will update. Basically, it has to update immediately since we created by referring this document only. Okay, let me try once again. Agreement is 2. Not yet updated. It will update. Basically, that's how that update should take place. Okay, we'll check after some time. Okay, so The same way, like you can just create and it will be taking the update, it will be updating against how much release. Okay, that's how you can go up to the level of amount. So this is all about different type of purchase orders which we can manage within the purchasing application. So any questions on this, please?
Yeah, Lakshman, if you have multiple agreements, either BPA or CPA, how to remember and put the reference document in the while creating the
You can
purchase order?
find in the search page, right? You can go on to search. You can search with the BU name. You can system will list out all the agreements.
But that is will be the long list, right? And how to know which?
That is a minimum thing. That is a minimum thing, not longest. Whatever you create in the application, that would be available in the application only, not somewhere else, right? So you have to find
Yeah,
to do it. Okay, when you
user has to. I mean, user perspective point of view, just
one
everything.
second. See, by default, system is picking the based on the numbering, right? When you are creating the purchase order, we planned to create for what? Contract purchase agreement. Against contract purchase agreement, we are trying to create it. But what system did? It is fetching some default initial number since there is open agreement which we created as a contract purchase agreement. Finally, what user should know which need to be selected. There could be a number of agreements, but they are placing the purchase order. They are trying to release the amount from which agreement, which contract or which blanket. The user has to select and do it. There is no other automation, and you cannot go and create the rules to map, etc., etc. Nothing. This is a complete
That means in
follow.
user my while creating the document itself, okay, we are going to create under the BPA or CPA or which number of the document that we need to have the
That's
those
what
details, right?
that's what we are doing, right? When you are creating within the document only, we are including CPR, any that BPA. The line level, that's what we are doing, right? Hope you notice that point. At the time of document creation only, we are specifying, not after creation.
Yeah, that I understand, but we know we have to have the details first. When user point of view, I'm
That they'll
thinking.
maintain outside of the system. They should know that they are creating the purchase order. So where requirement comes up in the business, once they know that, they'll start entering that in the system. Then that is against which agreement that they have to select. That's how it works. Okay. The magic we cannot do in the system. Okay, fine. So any other questions from anyone, please? Fine, no questions. We'll connect tomorrow and we'll see the rest of concepts will go one by one.